'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the hive the bees were doing their honeycomb jive. We all know that a long cold winter can kill off a bee colony. But the question is, what about warm winters? How does that factor in? And the answer is, there is a real danger if a winter is too warm. I waited a few days till we were approaching Christmas, and the temperatures dropped off quite substantially. It was about 40, 44 degrees, somewhere in that region. And I wanted to go back and look at three factors on our beehives. The first is I figured it was about time to pull the burlap out and put some new dry burlap in to absorb the moisture. The second, obviously, was to check the feed and see if I should be adding anything. And the third thing I wanted to check on is, were these bees going into a cluster formation? Warm days are good because the bees get to take what are known as cleansing flights. There's nothing really out there to forage, but that way they can leave the hive and do their thing and come back. Unfortunately, cleansing flights also have a tendency of killing a few bees off. Some of them chill, they fall to the ground, and they don't make it back to the hive. So you don't want an abundance of these cleansing flights. The other thing is, bees that are running around the hive, jiving in the hive, as our own bee calls it, use up a lot more resources, and they also actually shorten their own lifespan. When they're in a cluster formation, a winter bee can last up to about 6 months. In the summer, a bee's life is about 6 weeks. They literally wear themselves out. So the more active they are during the winter, the more bees you're going to just lose because they wear themselves out. The burlap was indeed moist, so I changed it out with dry burlap. And the bees definitely were not in a cluster form, even though they weren't taking flight today. On a brighter note, the food supplies appeared to be very, very good, so I wasn't too worried about that area. However, if you lose a lot of bees during the winter because they time out or age out, and you use up a lot of resources, you can end up with a hive that just doesn't have enough to make it through the full winter, and you'll get what's known as a dead out or a dead hive in spring when you open it up. That is really not a good thing. Maybe a little more pollen patty in the next visit. Let me correct myself. There's no such thing as a dead hive. That's just a wooden box, but a dead colony. The bees inside just don't make it through the winter. Bit more dry burlap on these guys too. As beekeepers, we can address the one problem, which is to add feed to the hive. The other problem, which has got to do with lifespan, we can't really address. It's really temperature dependent. So you hope that you have a moderately cold winter. There is actually research that shows that there's a sweet spot in between a warm winter and a cold winter where the bees consume very little of their resources and have a very good chance of making it through. It's up to Mother Nature, though, so we just have to wait. Hello, girls. As I mentioned earlier, we were right on top of Christmas. So with these three hives looked at and addressed as best as we can, there was one more bee we had to check up on. One that hasn't been around the bee yard for a long while. Christmas season made for some very late night rehearsals, so we had to actually go on the road here and catch up with our dear bee and have a little chat with her about how things were going. We caught up down at her church where she was directing. So, Bee, we haven't had too much of a chance to get you back in the park lately.
Is it on?
It's on. It's on.
Oh, I haven't had much time to do much. Do you know why, Badger?
Been there every second, yes.
Look!
Christmas.
It's Christmas! And it may not be Christmas time for the insect bees, but it's Christmas for the choir conductor bees. Yes, this is the time where I buzz more than any time of the year. And it's musical buzzing, but the bee is buzzed out.
We just had a long night down there, rehearsing for a concert that's going to happen this Sunday. But I thought it would be nice to touch base with
Hi, audience.
our missing partner.
I do miss being out in the bee park and seeing the hives. I look forward to seeing them again soon. I thought maybe we could bring them a gift this year, Badger. What do you think? Pollen cakes, winter cakes. I wonder if we could bring a nice tiara for the queen.
I think maybe a couple of packets of honey.
Perhaps.
Food is what they need.
Yep.
We'll come up with something.
That sounds good. So if the three kings were bees, they would be drones.
Yes, they would be.
And they wouldn't bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They would probably bring fuzzy bee legs and pollen on their little bee behinds, and then honey. That's what they would present, not the infant king, but the hivedly queen.
Well, until next season, until next week, or whatever comes first, or whatever happens, over and out.
Buzzing out. Bzz.